Okay, gentlemen, welcome. What you're about to see this evening is a replay of the role-playing session that we had last week. Just to sort of get everybody kind of up to speed with what we're generally doing, this is a 0th session, which is what we refer to as sort of a session where we're not really adding to story right now. What we're doing is sort of establishing characters, establishing the setting, and sort of getting the dominoes lined up to begin creating story in future sessions. The session that you're about to see only consists of 3 of our 5, possibly 6 players if Ed gets back. So it's going to be sort of a small, intimate session, but it's a good one, I think. It really highlights what's going on, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. I will be in the chat during the course of this to talk about what's going on. So, without further ado, here we go. Okay, this begins the recording. We are now officially writing canon.
So exciting.
All right, so what we're going to be doing then is, this is a sort of a session 0. This might be a session -1. We might need another session 0. Or session 0.5 or something to get Jack and Kristen's characters up. But the main thing I want to do is get your guys' characters solidly founded in the space that we're going to be playing in. And I mean, already the 3 of you make a pretty good team here. We've got a tea master and a scholar.
Yep.
But let's rewind a little bit and just talk a bit about the space we're going to be playing in. This is going to be the Faythen'oc area, where Harving, Gunther, and Wulthar come from. And regionally, this is a pretty interesting place, just in terms of like the huge diversity of biomes and peoples and stuff that's going on. But culturally, this is the place where heroes are everything, and everyone is a hero. Everyone is heroic at what they do. There's the heroic farmer that like can punch the ground to furrow an entire field's worth of plowing in one strike. You know, crazy stuff. And there's a lot of supernatural energy and supernatural stuff going on here, most of which is maintained by the bards, who are not heroes. Ostensibly, as far as the heroes are concerned, the bards are there to record and retell the stories of their great deeds, but the reality is that the bards are a kind of shadow government that's really running the show.
So I have a question. And so if I want to play like basically a historian, does that make more sense as a hero or a bard, or can it be either? Or
it can be either. So what distinguishes the bards from the heroes is that the bards have psychic ability. It actually has nothing to do with their ability to like memorize songs and stuff. That's all kind of a secondary thing that they wear as a disguise to do their main thing, which is they use their psychic powers to craft, basically craft temporary gods in the astral plane to focus the beliefs of the people around them into, and then those gods, being gods, do what they do, which is they grant spells and supernatural powers to their believers. And so basically by cynically exploiting the way belief works on Talus, these guys manage to cause the people around them to exhibit supernatural abilities that they do not actually have. Unlike mages who treat this supernatural as a science, the bards treat it as an art form, and they very much are into things like the structure of the hero's journey, making sure every day is a story into itself, stuff like that. And their magical artifacts reflect that. They don't build like machines that necessarily make sense. What they do is they would like a classic example would be a banner, a war banner for a Faythen'oc fighting force. Faythen'oc don't really have armies, but sometimes people gather together under a banner. And a bard might weave together a banner that has some magic thread woven into it, or some special things. But the property of the banner is that anyone who looks upon it, the banner is taking their belief in the glory of the banner and building a feedback loop that shoots that belief right back down into them and enchants their weapons to do extra fire damage. So all their weapons become wreathed in flame, right? Just because they look at the banner and are inspired by it. That's the sort of thing that they kind of do. And they have lots of these, and they're not limited to banners. They build statues, they paint paintings, murals, do tile work, all kinds of artifacts that are designed to gather, channel, and direct belief energy.
Okay, I definitely want to be a bard. I think because with my guy being basically like, he's somewhere between a historian, a storyteller, and somebody who's just like basically writing a memoir. And I think that has more interesting role-playing potential as a bard who like basically probably this account he's writing might be like his legendary artifact, and to the extent that he kind of recounts historical anecdotes that may or may not be accurate, or just kind of tells stories as legend or as history, that would be kind of how he channels it, sort of.
And one of the main differences between a heroic teller of tales and a classic Faythen'oc bard would be that a heroic teller of tales would be a hero. He's a hero who's really good at bard-like stuff, but that hero would be concerned with the accuracy of the stories. He would want to tell real things he really witnessed. Whereas bards will make shit up with no shame, because they know that by making up a good story, they can change the fabric of what people believe in and create special effects.
Is it possible to be a bard who like semi-believes his own bullshit?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to...
he's not necessarily. He's just playing a little fast and loose with the truth, and not necessarily cynically. That's just the line between fact and fiction for him is just marginally blurred.
The bards do believe in some things, but what they believe in is story structure. They believe that the hero's journey is important, that it's important to cross a threshold, to refuse the call to adventure first, and then accept it. There's these sort of patterns that they believe in, and they believe if you follow these patterns that the nature of reality will help structure the story of your life to have a good ending.
It's like, the hero must be an orphan, so I will kill your parents.
They don't necessarily go that far. But anytime they find an orphan, they're like, oh yeah, he's going to be good. This is going to be a good one.
All right, yeah, I'm a bard. I'm definitely a bard.
I really want that to happen. Like, it's so messed up, but I really want it to happen.
Well, that's actually that's Gunther's backstory. Is he's an orphan. His family was killed, and he was taken in by a bard, and groomed to be powerful because he was an orphan.
Isn't that how all superhero backstories happen? Is they're all orphans?
That's the thing. Is like the Faythen'oc are really the bards anyway are really big into the story structure. They're really big into like also with their art. They're really big into things like art study, how pictures are framed, making sure proportions are certain ways to exhibit certain emotions. Color palettes. They're really big on that. So their city is incredibly colorful. Yeah. And there are a lot of, especially among artists, there's a lot of people that sort of bridge that line. So there's a lot of like heroic sculptors that are not really bards, but the bards work closely enough with them to make awesome shit because they're so good at what they do. And not every bard, like every bard has the psychic ability, but not every bard necessarily is awesome at art. So it sometimes pays for them to pair up. But when a bard is awesome at art, then becoming a creator of artifacts is a pretty good route. And currently there are some very, very impressive projects underway. This main capital city of Faythen'oc is big, to put it mildly. Not because it's tall, but because it's spread out. They don't build buildings next to each other. Because every building is unique. Every building is a work of art. So you can imagine if you have the number of people, the population of a major city, but every dwelling is its own cathedral to the magnificence of architecture. If shit gets spread out very, very thin. So their capital city occupies an amount of territory that we would typically think of as like a state, not a city. And it is itself on an island that we might refer to actually as, well, not as a continent, but it is an island. But we would refer to the lake the island is in as not really a lake, but more like a sea. It's like the Great Lakes. It's big. We have a map, actually. Let me see if I can bring that up. It's in the share drive. So I'm just going to bring that up onto my my screen here and screen share it.
Which map?
Map.pdf. Oh well. I was hoping I could zoom in on this.
You can on the bottom.
Oh, gotcha. There we go. Okay, so this little C right here that I'm circling my mouse around, that is the that's the ocean, the lake basically that the capital of Faythen'oc is in. Faythen'oc runs from this border here, where my mouse is sort of zigzagging across, south. For reference, I'm going to, let's see. Oh yeah, over here on the left, where my cursor is there, that's the Troll Mountains. That is Thordil. That is Celebre's lake right there. Talus is this green patch up here. So to give you some sense of the scale of things, it's a big place. There is very little in the way of formal infrastructure in Faythen'oc, except the capital city. And the capital city, which is that entire massive area, one of the features it has, that brown speck is a mountain, and they are currently in the process of converting the mountain into a giant statue. It's been a long process, a long time in coming, and it's taking a while mostly because of how many details they're putting into it. It's not just a statue of one guy, it's a statue of like all the great heroes and below them lesser statues of lesser heroes, just like all kind of clustered together in one grand structure. The black area below the mountain there to the south of it, that's actually a swamp, which is the original impact crater of the flying city that crashed 10,000 years ago, where the people that became the Faythen'oc crawled out of. All that technology is lost. They do not know how any of it works, or even that it's there. Having a little camera malfunction. There we go. Okay. In terms of playable species, humans are, of course, present. as are Reiki elves, similar to what Kristen played, as are Anu, similar to what you played, Troy. There's also a similarly diminutive race of people that are kind of half beetle. Actually, it's a little less than half beetle. They're like a quarter beetle. They have vestigial pieces of beetle like carapace wings, but they're otherwise kind of humanish but short. Think of them like halfling, like a halfling crossed with a beetle. And then north of that line that I pointed out is the Empire, which the Empire believes that Faythen'oc is one of their provinces. They are not aware of how far south it goes. They think it just goes south basically into the forest a little bit. They are, yeah, unaware of the full extent and size of it. As far as they're concerned, it's a province that doesn't have a ruling lord, and as far as they can tell, doesn't need one, so no one bothers to try. The few who have come down to try and conquer it and claim themselves as lords of the Faythen'oc province have all failed. Generally because Faythen'oc are not the kind of people you can just walk up to and say, I'm taxing you now, and still walk away without injuries. Outside of the city, it's basically like lots of very, very spread out, tiny communities. Because, yeah, everybody's being heroic, and that doesn't really lend itself to a lot of the sort of infrastructure that you would see in, like, say, Dwarven lands, where, you know, hundreds of workers doing identical tasks can build a road. You might see a really well-built bridge here and there, because it's, you know, somebody with epic architectural skill crafted something amazing. But the serious, like, empire-spanning infrastructure that some places have just isn't present. But for those of you making bards, you will have access to the belief infrastructure, which is that most paintings, murals, banners, and statues are wired to make the belief that they gather available to the general area. So you'll be able to tap into reservoirs of stored belief. Belief doesn't last long, but they found ways to get it to hang on to a local area for a little bit longer after the people stop looking at the statue. Most statues will store their belief for a day or two. There's some really nice ones in the capital that can store for much, much longer. But that it doesn't do as much good in the capital because there's plenty of people around to keep them topped up. And belief can chain from statue to statue if you needed to. There's ways that you can draw belief out on distances by having it jump from point to point as long as it's of a similar flavor. Again, the Faythen'oc bards don't work like a science. To them, it's more of an art. And so belief comes in different flavors, and some flavors mix better than others. Strength and courage mix really well. Whereas, like, trying to think of an example that might not mix so well, but like maybe, yeah, strength and subtlety. Like a master chef, the sort of the subtle focus that he has may not mix particularly well with strength. Just depends. Again, it's not a science, it's an art. So looking at character histories then, Actually, Troy, do you have a basic idea for what you want to play?
I'm still kind of torn. I wanted to see what Chris and Jackie were gonna make if they're gonna play. I'm between. I haven't decided what kind of bard, if I would do a bard. And if I do a hero, I'm doing like Robin Hood essentially.
Okay.
So like if I'm writing, basically, would that be? I'm trying to figure out if it would be scholarship or performance, basically. Like if I'm writing basically a legend in real time.
Art. It's art. So this would be your. Hold on, let me get up my info.
Artistry.
Yeah, artistry is the main thing. And then there's a sub thing of it if you're going to be making your writing supernatural.
Okay, would that be crafting?
No, it's inscribing. Inscription is for if you make your stories have supernatural properties when they're told or read.
All right, I will definitely be investing in that.
You could always just make a bard character and a hero character. When we find out what the other two are playing, you could just choose which one you want.
Yeah, and and if you end up playing a bard, maybe you take your hero character as an NPC follower. There's no issue with that. Like if you're playing a bard or playing a hero, you can have NPC followers. Remember, as a hero, your NPC followers all aspire to be heroes as well.
Yes, but in my line of work, you'll get casualties.
Not if you brew your tea right. Oh, Master Brewer. So, Tice, I think your character is going to be arriving at the capital. That's sort of your what's going on. You it's up to you whether you were summoned to the capital or whether you're coming here because it's a cool place to be. Maybe you heard a guy in a bar mention that there's some awesome stuff going around and some people would like some awesome tea.
I was summoned because of the important meetings. Of course, they need to have something good to drink, and of course, my fame of being the master brewer has come across the land. So,
of course. So you made the journey to the Great Lake, and you have boarded a vessel captained by, of course, the finest captain ever to sail upon any body of water. But they all claim to be that. And all of them believe it, and for a moment, it's briefly true, because they believe it. And so you will sail across with many interesting characters. There's a man carrying dozens of full-sized barrels that have been strapped together with rope. He's carrying them upon his back, and atop the topmost barrel, there is an ox sitting on top of the barrel. He's carrying it because it's his turn. The ox carried it for the first half of the journey, so he's going to carry it for the second half. With a sly wink, he mentions that he let the ox have the downhill half because of what he did at the Battle of such and such place. As though you would know the story, of course. When someone indicates they don't know the story, a bard immediately appears from out of nowhere with a lute and begins singing the tale of the brave ox and how it won the Battle of Strong Hill. There's also a man on the boat with a pumpkin the size of, like, the size, it's as big around as what we would think of as, like, a child's inflatable swimming pool. It's his prize pumpkin, and he's looking for a chef that can make worthy food out of it.
That is a noble cause.
Indeed. So he has come to the capital to find a chef worthy of such a great pumpkin. There's actually a surprising amount of people that are here specifically for food-related stuff. Is that your character?
Yeah, Ikoma Masashi.
Awesome. I'm going to pull that up on my screen. Motives to become the god of all that is tea. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm still working on nature and traits.
Oh, and everyone has a supernatural ability. I guess in yours it's called divine, but the name that we're going with currently, our working name, is potential. You don't have to put points into it if you don't want to, but everyone has it available. And yeah.
As a starting thing, or as like a...
We're no longer requiring you to be a wizard to have it. Anybody can have it, and its points that you get out of it can be used just like stamina. So even if you're not a wizard, you still have access to that pool of points to do epic feats of strength or accuracy or whatever.
Okay. Well, I was meant for like the heritage traits. Like, do they?
Oh, let's see. Savant, gifted, keen. Yeah. No, you don't need to put anything in the heritage traits to get this.
So what's happening with those things and the ones that are like the divine? And do you still get? Does it just give you specific accesses to them?
We're collapsing all of the supernatural stuff into potential, and then potential will have its own stamina built from it. But so the only reason you would need divine revelation is if you were a priest of a god. And that would be your revelation that the god exists and that you worship them. Which doesn't seem in line with the character that you're building. I think you are your own god. So yeah, feel free to use that slot for any other kind of bonus. That's a lot of keen sense you have right there.
Yeah. So for the thing where it normally has the magic, it's just called potential.
Yeah, we just call it potential right now, and you do get. So let's see.
Yeah, I put it up to 2, or I put it up to. Actually, I need to put it up back.
Which character sheet is this based off of?
I took the one from just the Talus area, the back, like the document area where it has like the character sheet.
Okay, I want to see something with it. I want to see how well it's calculating.
Oh, because of divine revelation, it gives you like a free rank in like in like the thing or whatever. So I like in the points thing where it says like it calculates your points, I put a -1 there so that it fully calculates it. Because if I had put there, it would have said like I would have 1 less experience point to use.
Oh yeah, no, that's not what I'm checking. I just want to make sure that it's doing the escalating cost. It is. I just checked. Okay, some other weird stuff. So we've renamed stamina to endurance. So I just did that for you. And then under potential, you're going to have stamina, which is a separate thing. And your stamina is your potential multiplied by your highest base aptitude, which in your case would be empathy.
Is empathy, yeah.
Yeah, and the whole reason we're doing this is so that warriors aren't missing out on this potential pool of points. It gets prohibitively expensive as the potential goes up, just like wizards do, but it means you can hyper specialize if you don't want to make a jack of all trades warrior.
I see what you did there, potential. So when it comes to that, just another quick question for Keen. It says you can like take like divine and stuff from potentials. Do you? But normally you need like prerequisition to be able to cast that stuff. Is it still part of, or are they just all going to be like underneath that one thing?
Well, when you were taking divine, were you imagining you were a spellcaster?
I'm trying to think here. I was thinking of something when I was putting it on there. I was thinking, I guess, like more like trying to figure out something like to make my teas more out of this world, like to have like sort of some kind of connection.
Oh, there's going to be. You're a Faythen'oc hero, right? Like, there's no way you don't end up with some kind of supernatural, out of this world nonsense going on around you. The key to it all, of course, is that it's coming from the bards and the energy that they're helping to direct. They're going to direct your belief into your potential, basically. They're going to direct it into the supernatural effects that will seem like it's you doing amazing magical feats. Because it is, in a way.
Because yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I should fill in with the last spot.
Now, for those of you playing as bards, keen psychic sense and keen belief sense are both entirely valid things for you to have. There will be plenty of opportunity for you to utilize that. Also, although you will not always have access to this, it's worth me pointing out that the bards will be able to make use of connections in ways that are not normal for people. You'll be able to tax your connections to get extra belief out of the network. Basically, all the bards are maintaining the network at all times, and if you know a bunch of guys that are nearby, you can get them to send you a little extra juice when you need to power up a hero. As long as you guys are within the Faythen'oc network, the bards are going to have access to a pool of pips as though they have an item. It's not actually in your inventory, it's just the network. The network being nearby is an item that gives you pips whenever you're doing your psychic and supernatural stuff. You can, if you need an extra bit of juice, you can tax your connections to get some of the other bards nearby to send you some of the belief energy they're working with, and convert those pips into dice. This only functions when you're inside the network. Harving does not have access to that because she's outside of the belief network. So if you get too far from any of the statues or pieces of artwork, it'll have trouble. Now, if Miles is making a character that can just create those pieces, then you may have a little easier time of it. Little Note is getting tired from all of her wrestling with the fish monster that I made for her. Maybe she'll actually sleep through the night tonight.
That's what I say about my kids.
Takes cats so long to break the nocturnal thing. I don't think they actually ever do.
Evolution's a hell of a thing.
It's one hell of a drug. It's also funny because I took the last name I took for Akoma. Well, Akoma is his last name. So I'm doing the structure of for last name at first name second. But Akoma is also from L5R. It's funny in the Lion Clan. It's their bards. Of course, himself, this Master Chef Master Tea Master is not a bard.
So, Miles, would it be safe to say that your character is involved in the mountain project right now?
Could be. Sure.
You're working on like some of the inscriptions that are going to go on the plaques to make sure that they're suitably epic and have magical properties?
Cool. Sounds good to me.
A large number of the bards that are working on that are they're running threads of mithril and gold through the inside of the mountain to connect the plaques, so that reading a plaque on one side can have effects on the other side of the mountain. They're trying to basically build channels that allow belief energy to flow through the mountain on the inside. It looks in many ways very reminiscent to circuitry or the wiring of the electrical system of a house, except that looking pretty is the number one concern. Because if it doesn't look pretty, it doesn't work.
Oh, is it going to be like this reminds me of? Is this going to be sort of like the in Warhammer, where the chair that the Emperor sits on that becomes like a giant beacon for all of mankind to be able to navigate? But this is like for like bard kind. They have like their own star that they can hook up from. This is what it's sounding like more and more. So that people like Captain Minnie's character can like access the web from where she is, because it's going to be a big enough thing.
You guys can talk to them about that. No one has revealed the full plan. They know that the council, which is referred to as the Council of Eight, but only actually has 7 houses in it. The Council of Eight has a plan. They have an overall agenda with this project, but they haven't revealed it to anyone in full yet. Because we haven't started the first session.
Yes.
And for safety, large portions of the mountain are covered with a tarp so that people don't accidentally become inspired by it and push uncontrolled amounts of energy into the channels before they're ready.
I just can't imagine the size of this freaking tarp. It must have taken like some master or like people to like make it.
Yeah, and they've been working on it for generations. Right? This is not something that they did on a whim. In the heart of the mountain, there's a catacomb of the great artisans who have died in the process of building this enormous structure. Not because they died of mishaps, which are actually very uncommon. It's not that their safety is really good; it's that they have supernatural powers. So falling rocks are not really a problem. Um, but these are just artisans that died of old age before they got to see the completed work. And so they're interred here with epic inscriptions of how great they were so that their ghosts can be summoned upon the completion of it to witness how amazing the total project is. Tice, upon arriving on the shore, there is a bard up at the top of the pier, along with about a dozen people gathered. And the bard like sings the praises of the ferryman who ferried you across the expanse of water, and then begins announcing each person as they get off the boat. Each person gets their own little musical thing of just a few bars of interesting introductory music, and then their name and great deeds are announced. It's not clear how this bard knows you, but you just assume that he's memorized the faces of all of the greatest heroes, and of course you're one of them. It turns out a lot of the people that are getting off, they're being greeted by somebody from that crowd. So the crowd wasn't formed just for you. It looks like most of them are there to meet friends or family members that are getting off the boat. Meanwhile, Miles, at the construction site, there's some children playing in the construction site. One of the other bards you can see is just kind of leaning against a pillar, like seemingly like trying to tune a lute. But with your keen senses, you can tell that their attention is entirely focused on the children.
Whose attention?
The bard.
The bard.
They're directing belief energy at the kids, probably for safety, as it is a construction site. And you see the kids kind of sneak up underneath a guy, and then leap out as he's dropping a pile of bricks that are no longer needed, and they all point their hands in the air, and a gust of air sends the pile of bricks soaring back up to the man, and then they giggle and run off. There is a faint, in the astral plane, there's a faint image of what looks like it might be their grandfather, temporarily doing something supernatural before the bard plays another couple notes and the guy fades.
All right, I'll look at the bard. I'll say, you coddle the children. You can learn a good lesson in bricks falling on you.
The bard just kind of gives a wry smile and says, better that the mountain built first.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point.
He sort of gestures up to the man who had dropped the bricks, says, that's their father there. Can't have him off work. He's too important. And the guy is a pretty epic carver of stone. It's not just that he's like good at the art. You're probably there's bards that are better at the art. This guy's just fast, and he can lift a shitload. And he's just getting lots of just raw work done. This is the steel driving man. This is their yeah.
Cool. All
this
right.
is the guy that the steam drill can't beat.
All right, it's cool. So I probably admire that guy. And I mean, I'm an inscriber too, but I'm only a 4. I'm certainly not a legend like he is. So I was like, yeah, we need him on the job. That's fair. He should teach his children to spend more time admiring our ancestral heroes, though, less time causing chaos and interrupting our projects. So this is a place for children, but this is a place for them to learn about their ancestors.
And watching the children as they run around the construction site, you can tell that every time they enter into a place, some of the just because the main statues aren't all ready yet, so to collect belief, they've basically hung cloth on the walls with cool paintings on them, and the children their belief is basically getting absorbed by the paintings and redirected into a lot of different projects. So it kind of looks like the bards are almost using them as a battery recharger.
Cool.
Not without purpose.
Yeah. I'll call one of the kids over.
3 of them actually come over. It's hard to get just one.
Cool. Yeah, 3. All the better. I'll point to. So I'm inscribing. I'm like basically chiseling an inscription into the stone under a statue. I'll be like, do you know who that is?
All 3 of them try and take a guess, and they all 3 say different names simultaneously.
Say, almost. You almost got it. That's Hrothgar, one of our greatest heroes. He killed no fewer than 1,000 men. They were all very evil.
One of them says, "Ew, killing," and the other 2 are like, "Yeah, killing." Like, and then they sound out his name as setting it to memory, Hrothgar, and they all kind of bulk up a little bit. Like actually, physically, you can see their muscles growing in real time.
Nice. I'll be like, yeah. I'll point to the one that was all grossed out. I'll be like, that's a good instinct, but you have to understand that some people need killing. You know, it's good not to enjoy it. You know, you don't have to enjoy it, but you know, some people just gotta die.
The child nods in some semblance of understanding. Probably not true understanding, he's a bit young for that, but villains.
Yes, exactly. The villains must die, and heroes must be heroic in killing them. That's what makes them heroes. Or that's one of the things that makes them heroes.
One of them says, "Is there a villain behind that pillar?" And the 3 of them run off.
I'll just kind of laugh and go back to inscribing.
Tice, having been announced and disembarking the boat, the bard is happy to show you to accommodations.
Yes, as I start walking down the thing, I have like a little, like one of those like circular sort of hats on, and over my shoulder I have a walking stick, but on the front side is a lantern, on the back on the front side is a little tea set, while on the back is a lantern to help guide my way. And I have a giant. Looks like I have a giant, like a humped back, like something circular is like I have underneath my cloak.
A tea kettle, no doubt.
Oh no, I have a tea kettle on my stick. I have a giant tea bowl on my back that's made out of pure metal that I use for my ceremonies.
So the bard escorts you to what is kind of like an inn. It's a very large building. The main floor is tables and smells of amazing, incredible food. And you're of course shown to a seat, and a woman approaches to take your order. It's not normal that there are waiters in Faythen'oc society. There are some, and they are, of course, epic waiters that can handle entire restaurants all on their own. But when there's groups of people like you see here, each kind of handling a table, typically they are chefs, and your table is waited by the chef who will cook your meal. In this case, though, she is not wearing a chef's apron, but is in fact wearing a very different kind of uniform, and you recognize immediately that she is a brewmaster, not a tea brewmaster, but a very different kind. And she's bringing over stout ales that she no doubt made herself.
Hello, how do you do on this great day?
I do gloriously. And how are you, honored healer? Tell me of the hunger inside you. We shall quench your thirst with the finest of meads, ales, and roast meats.
I do require some roasted meats, but I am not a drinker myself. I am more of a tea person. I've devoted my whole life onto the art of tea. For I'm a master tea master.
With literally supernatural speed, like no human can move this fast. An apprentice of hers appears beside her and takes the ales away, and just kind of vanishes. And says, "If that is your preference, it is a shame though, for I am the finest ale maker in all of the land."
Well, if you wish, we could sample each other's wares and have glorious reminiscence of all the great foods here and drinks.
There's a rush of wind behind you, and the ales that she had previously been holding are in front of you for no directly visible reason. And says, "Then we are agreed. I'm certain my apprentice would like to watch your technique, as he is still deciding what manner of drinks he wants to master brewing."
But yes, of course. Your apprentice is extremely lucky to have a brewmaster like yourself.
And I am honored to have a fellow brewmaster visit my establishment.
Indeed. I am a brewer of hot drinks, while you are a brewer of cold drinks. Fine for both occasions.
And so she takes you to the kitchen, gives you access to a heated stove and whatever materials you need. And yeah, you enjoy some cold drinks, and I'm sure make some awesome hot drinks. I'd love to give you a turn. Troy, do you have any sense of what you want to play?
I was gonna ask as soon as we had like a break between those there. What are the bard types? I basically have I have my like Robin Hood mostly written, but I want to think about the bard still.
So there are bards that like to be out in the public. These guys, basically like Harving, they wander around with heroes, ostensibly recording their great deeds, but in reality kind of manipulating situations for various purposes. They're sort of field operatives, basically. There are bards that do not reveal their purpose. They're stealth guys that hide. They don't sing songs. No one knows they're there. No one knows they're bards. These guys are very often used for wet work, assassins. They're sort of the ones that get their hands dirty. There are artificer bards, like what Miles is playing, who are mainly there to create works of art that help manipulate belief. And there can be more. There can be other types.
For the wet work, what does that mean?
They murder people.
Yeah, I understand that part.
So,
well, like, is that all like psychic based and they're doing stuff, or they're actual assassins?
They're
not really
using
doing anything bardic?
Yeah, they're using their psychic abilities to get supernatural assistance. But their main thing is very often that sometimes there are situations, and these situations need a villain's hand, and so these are the guys who are willing to become a villain.
Okay, I could probably do that. Let me work on it.
It's a very thankless job because none of the heroes will appreciate what you do, but the bards know that it's necessary sometimes. And when somebody like that is deployed, a lot of the bards know to just stay out of your way. But yeah, it's its own kind of special thing. Well, a lot of that work is done solo. It's not impossible for you to work with a group, but yeah, just you're going to be very stealthy. That's going to be sort of the key in that one.
Okay, so stealthy.
And you have your psychic abilities to help with the stealth, so you can take the belief of others, in particular their fear. It's kind of dark side, but you can take the fear and worry of people and turn that into stealth and backstabbing kind of abilities.
Okay, so it would be like a stealth, melee, like agility kind of person.
Yeah.
Okay, I will start building that right now.
Cool. Miles, the bard is still there when you finish your carving, and then approaches you. It seems that she was waiting for you all along,
Cool.
and not
Yeah,
just hurting children.
And oh yeah. So okay, yeah. I'll put down my hammer and chisel. I'm like, yeah. I think this inscription will do.
Fine work. Fine work indeed.
Yeah,
I've been
thank you.
asked to escort you. The Council of Eight wishes to speak with you directly.
I assume I know what the Council of Eight is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a group of 7 houses. But they're called the Council of Eight because they always set 8 chairs. There's always 8 places, and they do everything in 8s, but for some reason only 7 actually show up. The 8th house, which is called the Cloak and Shield, is empty. There are rumors that this is because they operate in secret. Yeah, but you don't know. You figure as a bard, if that was the case, you would have the tool set necessary to know that there's a group operating in secret. But
Cool.
yeah.
All right. So, does this strike me as an unusual request?
It's a high honor, actually. The council. Now, the council. They say the council. The council isn't 7 people. It's 7 houses, and the houses are pretty big. So you don't know how high ranked the people in the house are. But these 7 houses wield the most influence and the most physical resources of any organization within Faythen'oc. There are plenty of lower houses. They're not really called lower houses; they're called named houses, because the Council of Eight, the names of their houses are descriptive. It's things like the House of the 4 Towers and the House of the Cloak and Shield, whereas all the other houses are somebody's name. It's like the House of Stephen.
Cool. Yeah, so I'd be pretty honored to be told that I've received this summons, right?
Yeah, this is a
Okay.
pretty nice thing. It's a pretty good deal. You always hope that it's somebody super important, but realistically, it's probably not. But it's still pretty honorable to participate in that level of government.
Cool. Yeah, then I'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah, certainly, by all means.
Members of the houses do have telltale ways that their clothing is put together. There's always a few threads on their clothing that are in patterns that are recognizable to other bards. In the case of the Council of Eight, they put special magical properties into their threads, so that only bards with psychic ability can even see that the threads are there.
Oh, cool. So I see that.
You
right?
see it, yeah.
All right, cool.
This is definitely a Council of Eight operative.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I'll follow.
All right. As Tice is enjoying his amazing tea and beer and food. So yeah, you travel down the mountain, which someday will be a statue, not just a mountain, and into the sort of the heart of Faythen'oc. The capital city, like I said, is very spread out, so there's a lot of travel involved. But supernatural abilities enable you to be rather swift about that. Plenty of statues to the great runners, the great messengers, and in particular, the House of the Granite Wings has statues to their sort of patron hero, which is a dude pulled by a chariot that is pulled by eagles. And it's like a flying chariot kind of thing. Statues and pictures of that are all around, and whenever you're near those, it's really easy to tap into belief in speed to get yourself moving faster. It is, of course, faster movement, but not effortless movement. It's not like an elevator, so you are pretty exhausted when you get in. Your efforts have been more efficient and have been used more rapidly, but yeah.
Cool.
This is a society that values effort quite a bit, so nothing is really completely automated.
Yeah, so it's actually not bad if you show up looking a little out of breath, and
Yeah, no, people kind of expect that. They're like, that's a guy who's working hard. Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I've probably got like some like stone dust on my arms and stuff. I'm all sweaty as hell, disheveled. Just like, all right, put in a good day's work.
So yeah, you arrive at a really nice building. While most Faythen'oc live as family units in single dwellings, which are there's no apartments, no high rises. Like, yeah, some of them are like 2-3 stories tall. This area actually has real, honest to God dormitories. This is clearly a place meant for training would-be bards. This is not a hero's dwelling. And so it's pretty, homey to you. This is like you went through this when you were doing your training, and one of the conference rooms has been set aside, and there's a table there with 8 chairs. This would normally just be like a classroom for teaching bards, but yeah, it's been repurposed temporarily for the purposes of this meeting. And there are 7 people there, a couple of which are out of breath like you. They hauled ass over here as well.
All right, do I recognize them as having like the telltale kind of signature signs of the 7 houses?
Yes, and what is your connections?
3.
You also recognize that these guys are not low-level clerks. These are actually high-level decision makers within their respective organizations. In particular, one of the guys that does not appear to be out of breath at all is wearing a rank that you've never even seen. You just know it's above everything you've ever seen. He seems to be kind of in charge. Everyone's sort of deferring to him, and he looks at you and says, time to let you in on a little bit of secret information. You ready?
I'm always ready.
In asking that you're ready, he's sort of culturally asking, are you sure you're not being spied on? This is sort of a part of their culture of like, they're always kind of psychic. And people who are psychic kind of get into mind reading, which also kind of gets into paranoia. So a little bit of the paranoia is leaking out.
Yeah, and I have a keen psychic sense. Actually, with a defection, I have a Q4 keen psychic. So would I
nice.
Maybe potentially no.
So you probably pick up on the fact that like a lot of these guys are just checking the psychic field to see if there's anybody else listening right now.
Cool. Do I sense anyone else?
You do not. No.
So I'll kind of pause for a minute and kind of listen intently, and I'll say, yes, I'm ready.
This is your call to adventure. As you know, the statue is going to be a great and powerful tool for directing belief. But what you may not know is that it cannot reach far enough. This is not an insurmountable problem. The issue is that it needs a receptacle to draw the energy the other half of the distance. We need you to find an artifact of sufficient power and craft it into such a receptacle so that we can deliver it to where it needs to be. This is your call to adventure. Do you accept? Now, I'm just going to give you kind of a hint here. part of the hero's journey is refusing the call to adventure.
I'll say, and what kind of receptacle are we talking about? I'm a little confused on the specifics.
As an engineer, and this is him talking, and as an engineer, you understand the principles of directing belief. A work of great art attracts belief, and then the magic within it directs that belief at a distance so that nearby bards can tap into this energy and make use of it. But to go extensive distances, you need a piece of art on the other side, which has a little bit of belief as a seed to draw in the similar flavor. Strength inspires strength. Wisdom inspires wisdom, and so on. We have a great engine that we are building to generate a tremendous amount of belief. We need a small pocket of it to act as a target to attract that beam of belief and draw it in. And that artifact is going to be a shield. I'm not speaking metaphysically. I am literally, it's a shield, it's made of wood, and we lost it.
So I'm afraid I'm not a. You'll have to understand my reluctance. It's just that what you have requested is not exactly what I do. I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. I observe acts of great heroism, and I record them for posterity, so that all of history may remember our great deeds. To go out and create, to go out and find this shield. What shield is this? How was it lost? These are important things to know. I can't simply accept.
They all smile and nod to each other. That was an excellent refusal. Very good. Excellent. They're very, very pleased with your refusal. They say, excellent, well done. So the shield once belonged to a woman, a warrior of great strength. Yeah, thank you, Note, for typing all those periods in my spreadsheet.
So this is a historic artifact.
It is indeed an artifact of great historic precedent.
Now, is this a shield that I have come across in my own study as a historian? No, I have not. Okay, I'll say it. I have studied our history extensively, and I have no record of the shield. Is it that poorly understood, or not so widely known?
It is not so widely known, but it is known among those who need to. Most importantly, however, it is known to the son of the warrioress who wielded the shield. He is currently the closest to the target that we need to direct the belief to. And he will recognize the shield as part of his story and part of his legend. And so it is that the shield must be delivered. But we don't have it. And when we get it, if we get it, we don't have enough time to bring it back here and get it reinscribed. It'll need to be inscribed with the stories that tell of her deeds on the spot.
Could you tell me her story so that I may accurately inscribe it?
I can tell you what we know, but part of your journey when you cross the threshold will be to seek out her story and learn what became of her and learn her final fate.
Good. That is much better. So this is a important element of history that has been lost to us and must be recovered and recorded.
That is correct.
Yes, then I will absolutely do that.
Excellent. You will need to gather companions, and then we will see to it that you are transported to the threshold to meet your mentor. these are also important elements of the hero's journey. So yeah, they're following the script.
All right, and I'll kind of I'll kind of say, I'll stop them for a minute. I'll say, what I need you to understand is that if what I learn about this hero is, I will not. I'm going to tell this hero's story accurately. I hope that it is the story that you want it to be, but
in truth, it doesn't really matter what the story is. What matters is that the person read it and think it to be true. This should create enough of a target that we can then direct the. And you see his mind selected a word and then discarded it and said, and then he says instead, the energy.
Yeah. Say, well, story is important to me.
You do, as a psychic, have the power to try and pry out what that word is that he discarded if you want to. Bear in mind, of course, he is way higher rank than you, but you're allowed to try.
You know what? I'm a truth seeker. I'm going to try.
Cool. Let's see some dice. Oh, wait, we don't have Ruth here.
Roll 20? Or real dice?
Oh, we're going low tech today.
Low tech classic.
All right, let's see. How many dice are you rolling?
So would this be what, cunning and?
This is your potential.
Oh, okay. So my potential's 3. I have a Q4 psychic gift.
Ooh, nice. 4 pips then. Do you have any reason to believe you have advantage in this situation?
I mean, I'd say the only real advantage I'd feel I'd have here is that this is basically my natural state. I am a truth seeker. When people try to obfuscate the truth, I find it. I pry, and I continue to pry, and I discover the truth only to oftentimes promptly just forget it or disregard it or weave it into legend anyways. But it is very important to me to know the truth before I kind of cast it in whatever direction I want.
Take as a trait Truth Seeker, and you get a threshold bonus on this roll.
All right.
Okay, so with the threshold bonus, your rolls were a 1, a 4, and a 5. With the threshold bonus, the 5 is a success. You need 1 pip to turn the 4 into a second success. There's 3 pips left over. 1 plus 3 is 4, so that doesn't quite reach the threshold, so you've got 2 successes.
Cool.
The word he was thinking of was weapon.
Oh. That alarms me slightly. But you know, these are the best of our culture. I have no reason to suspect their motives, I suppose. So.
And I apologize for my cat trying to type on your spreadsheet.
That's no problem.
It has to learn. It's just typing the wrong keys right now.
Yeah, her spelling is a little off. She typed a string of, it looked like, about 150 colons.
That's because it's her language and not our language. We do not know what language the cat types in.
Would I reasonably suspect that this person realizes that I just kind of pried and got that word?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. I mean, I don't really care. I'm fine. You know, I don't intend to go into a journey ill-equipped. So.
Yeah, I mean, you rolled enough to get the word, not enough to get it stealthily. But yeah, as a character, you would always expect that these guys are on top of their game.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'll just kind of nod. Yeah, I know he knows I did it. I'm not gonna acknowledge it, but I'm not gonna pretend I didn't do it. So, I'll say,
In the
Very
interest
well.
of not explaining everything twice, because those who travel with you deserve to know the truth, as well as you, we will reserve the full briefing until you've assembled your crew. What you need to know for the moment is that you will be traveling north into the Empire, a realm of barbarian slavers whose culture does not respect art or individualism the way we do.
Oh, fuck those guys. All right.
However, their leadership does have an appreciation of arts and various highly specific tasks and crafts. As such, we have influenced one of the foremost tea makers and brewers to come to the area. We will inform you of which inn he is staying in. We're also going to probably try and find you some muscle. But we encourage you to do some recruiting of your own. If you end up recruiting somebody that we cannot permit to enter the Empire for fear that the Empire would learn secret knowledges, we will inform you of that prior to the briefing.
So, understood.
Can't be too careful. They are barbarians. Utterly uncivilized.
I'll hold up this, basically my journal, which is exceedingly huge. I've been writing in it for a very long time, and I'm most likely am not the first person to write in it, but it's bound in some kind of like very magical leather with a really ornate lock on it. And I'll say, don't worry, they can't get into this, and even if they could, I'm sure they couldn't read it.
Well, they have some very clever people. They're not idiots. But to give you an example of their barbarism, they value coins merely for the weight and number of them, not for the pictures that are carved upon them. Can you believe that madness?
Only from a barbarian.
In the Faythen'oc, the currency is art, and so every coin has a unique carving on it. There is no standard printed currency, and the metal of the coin is almost irrelevant. If it's a picture that you like, then you value it. The Faythen'oc coins are very often actually made of non-precious metals and are huge.
I'm guessing it's hard to be the wealthiest man in Faythen'oc.
Yeah, and no one wants to. Everyone wants to be the most famous, the most heroic. Well, wealth is kind of a silly notion. Like in your example, like they're not going to charge you for your meal at that inn, right? You're brewing tea, they're making a meal. You guys are both just showing off to each other at the cool stuff you can do. That's it. And around the table, you notice that like nobody's being charged for their food. The innkeeper is showing off, and people are bringing the innkeeper cool things to cook. Off in the back, you see somebody rolling that freaking huge pumpkin in. Now, Miles, you would know, although you're not there at that bar, you would know that one of the major problems that the Faythen'oc bards have is maintaining food supplies, because there isn't a lot of mass agriculture. The few guys that are good at mass agriculture are like highly valued and encouraged to never stop.
Yeah, makes sense.
There is some trade with the Empire that brings in wagon carts of mass manufacture, like rice and grains and of various sorts. The Empire will generally have like a slightly Eastern flair to it, but it also is freaking huge and has incredible variety as well. In fact, they have an entire province of Wraithy elves.
Cool. I'm still going back and forth on whether I want to be an elf or a human. It could work either way, but with a kind of a different flavor to it.
Yeah.
I think I'll probably end up being a human.
Also changes your trade options, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wraithy Elves have the crazy magic vision, which is not super compatible with psychic energies. So things would get a little bit blurry for you. You probably wouldn't have enough points to get the keen sense that you want.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with human. I think it makes more sense. I think it makes more sense, anyways. I think like the weird kind of obsession with being remembered probably is more compatible with a shorter lifespan.
Yeah. I love that you're a stone carving inscriber too. Like most inscriptor guys are either sewing or like ink on paper.
Yeah, no, I'm hammer and chisel. I mean,
That's beautiful.
I'm also a writer, so I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
I guess I do both. Sort of.
You just need to walk around
Nothing wrong
with
with that.
tablets.
Being scriber of like stone and metal is actually, I think, is a little bit more cool, because the whole fact that like stone and metal endure, paper like fades away a lot longer, like earlier. So I know I've seen a couple of stories like in our role playing games where there were the dwarves put all their stuff into chiseled into metal because their world would reset, and all written word on paper was removed, but anything chiseled onto metal stayed.
Oh, cool.
If you're looking for another keen sense, belief sense is because belief energy is separate from psychic energy. Psychic energy is just useful for manipulating it, but belief energy is what the Faythen'oc heroes channel. So while you use your psychic energy to build constructs, the belief energy is what powers them. You can't manipulate it, but being able to sense it means that you would know like what people are believing in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna take that then. I'm gonna pair it with Oblivious. I chose Oblivious basically because I end up basically, yeah, I commit things to memory pretty well, and then I promptly just ignore all the details I don't care about and make my own better version to write down as historical fact.
As any good bard does.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. I have a deficiency, but it's like one of the options that says it leaves it up to the GM, which is a disorder.
So risky.
Oh, Do you really want to leave it up to me what your disorder is?
Yes.
All right.
I've made that mistake before.
I always make that mistake.
Or I mean, good idea before. I've made that good idea.
Yeah, I'm the player that's like, what? You only gave me one mental infliction. What's your game there? You know.
Do we have any sort of backstabby talent, or can I just write one? I'm not sure what it would look like. Like if that would just be a mastery, or if it would be something different.
So something like you requires both melee and stealth.
I mean, there is combat stealth, where
I took that.
Yeah.
That's that's beneficial in the time, but I'm wondering if there's like what it would look like if the attack was a surprise attack kind of thing.
But then,
Well, let's make something up. That's what the system is for. This is fluid we're playing in. So let's say that if you're attacking while hidden, you can tax your stealth to add a die, or add your stealth and dice or something? What would be fair? What would be balanced?
I think
Yeah, that's the thing. I
yeah.
can totally say something and not make it
Yeah.
balanced. I'm
I know,
happy to
right?
do that.
I think stealth and dice is pretty balanced, just because it's not like you're going to be making that attack over and over again.
You're taking a reduction.
Yeah, the necessity of being hidden is kind of a balancing factor by itself. So.
Okay.
It was
Sounds
either
good.
that or the player, the defender loses dice to defend with equal to your stealth.
The problem is Grace kind of gives me that already, right?
Oh, it does? Oh, okay.
Well, Grace gives me agility-based test, which would be a backstab. I tax an agility to get successes in dice. So I would just have that for stealth also, and it'd be less of a hurt on me. Because then I'd still be able to continue combat.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's
So
a pretty low key ability.
Okay.
So it's basically it's like Grace, but you're using using stealth instead.
Yeah. So it's just a higher. Well, I mean, technically that's better.
It's doing it from a different pool.
But it does have a requirement. So it's harsher to lose an aptitude than it is to lose a talent, or not a talent, a skill. But if I'm losing a skill to get the same benefit, I'm also having a requirement attached to it.
By the way, I'm picturing my guy as like a very like kind of like Hemingway-esque like type of writer, and like he's very like he doesn't like flowery prose. He's very much he's very much about being like kind of trying to capture like the real essence of what's happening in a kind of a brutally simplistic way, and so that's kind of the mindset he has, which is he thinks of himself as a historian, but he's more of a just kind of a teller of tall tales.
That's very. I'm glad you went bard with this instead of hero, because that's definitely more of a bard way of looking at it.
And I intend to be fairly cagey as to whether or not he knows he's peddling bullshit, or whether or not this is just kind of how he views the world, and this is just like his sincere interpretation of what he sees, and like a sincere attempt to do what he thinks is an honest job of memorializing history. But I tend to lean more towards this being like a sincere endeavor.
Cool. So you have information about where a brewmaster is, who they say will be useful because many of the aristocrats in the empire value tea and tea services, and so this may give you an excellent tool in acquiring information.
Good. Yes, I like tea. So I was given the information of what inn this character's staying at.
Yes.
Okay.
We've already directed him to an inn for you to find him in.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose I should journey on over there then.
Quick question on traits. Heritage traits. We take psychic inspiration if we're bards?
Yes.
Do we take anything else? Do we take the belief one? Is that a heritage trait, or is that just something we have? It's like part of it.
Oh, so keen senses are just like those are neat things for getting you like bonus pips when you're doing stuff related to that sense. All bards with their psychic sense, they can see the belief lines that are connecting the network, and they can call upon psychic powers to create the temporary gods.
Oh, so there's a heritage trait that we take to basically be a bird.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you said. Psychic inspiration.
Yes, psychic inspiration. That's
okay,
correct.
Cool.
Yeah, I knew we had at least one we had to block out. I know keens are just bonuses. I just wasn't sure if we also had to take one because it's like
The key-
accessing the network as a thing.
No, the accessing the network is part of your inspiration. The keens just give you extra pips when you're dealing with it.
Sweet. Okay, I think I have finished. For now.
Looks like the formatting got a little tripped up there, but yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I'm fixing it right now.
So, Tice, after brewing your tea, you've sat down with the proprietor of the inn, and you've sampled her ales, and she sampled your teas. You've both complimented each other on how grand things are. And then a meal is brought out of fine meats and cheeses and breads. And the dessert is fresh baked pumpkin pie with some of the sweetest, most delicious pumpkin you've ever had.
May I perchance to this pie is amazing. I may perchance was this from I not long ago I saw a man wielding a giant great pumpkin. Is this from the same man?
Indeed, it is. He has brought us this pumpkin, and we have honored his great deeds by making it into a fantastic array of pies, drinks, spiced pumpkin ales, and many other wonderful features.
I see. May I?
And she shouts back to the kitchen, "Hail to the chefs!" And you hear like a unified hail come from the kitchen.
May I take a small portion, a small portion, just so I can honor his great creations by making a tea and sharing it with other people around the area.
A pumpkin tea? Why, I must try this. Indeed. So, as she's taking you back up to from the table to the back, the two of you bump into a bard. You recognize immediately this is a one of the people that's critical to your life, because these are the people that tell the story of how awesome your deeds are, and what a fantastic moment, because you're about to perform something amazing by making pumpkin tea. Miles, this is you. You encountered him at the bar, and he and the bar proprietor are going to go get some fresh pumpkin. The pumpkin, I mean, it is slightly exaggerating to call it the size of a house, but it's freaking huge. No pumpkin has any right to be this big.
Oh yeah, I'll say that must have been one hell of a heroic farmer.
Well, yes, he's sitting down over there having one of the greatest ales ever known to man.
So I must shake his hand and ensure that that it is recorded in history. I'll go up to him. I'll say, "Sir, that is your pumpkin."
Says, "Indeed, it is the finest pumpkin I have ever grown. Perhaps not the largest, but the flavor, the finest."
Say, good. This I'm gonna point to this book of mine. I'm gonna kind of undo the lock on it and kind of unwrap it. I'm gonna say this is the tome of all knowledge in history, and I must record your name in it.
He proudly recites his name and his lineage, the name of his father before him, his mother who taught him how to grind seeds to cultivate different traits, and her mother before her who taught him how to care for and water the plants. And yeah, just he goes on for maybe like half an hour.
All right, I'm gonna dutifully recall it all, write it all down. I'd say history will remember you. Thank you for making that pumpkin.
Next year, I'll make it even bigger. This I promise.
Good. It is always good to have goals to aspire to.
And he returns to his amazing pumpkin ale that really just is going to be the talk of the town for a while.
All right, I'll go up to Tice's character who introduced me to this pumpkin farmer.
It's been about half an hour, so Tice's character is now well involved in brewing a pumpkin tea.
Okay, then I'll just kind of sit and kind of passively observe. I don't want to interrupt his process. You can't interrupt a hero at work.
Yeah. So yeah, this like finally crafted bowl is now off of his back, and it's the thing that's I've never actually really brewed tea myself, so like so that's where he's like infusing the tea, like the water with, and in this giant bowl that's sitting on top of the flames, as he like pulls out a couple of knives and starts like slowly and meticulously examining smelling it, and every single piece of thing that he's adding to it, like he's with the pumpkin and like the certain spices that he has that have been handpicked with his very nose and mouth, and he's meticulously putting into the, and after an hour, he's like he takes it off the heat as he strains it, and he keeps the material as he slowly pours it into the pot, which at the beginning, like, his bowl was super full, but now it's gone down to the size of a regular tea kettle full, as he's been concentrating and brewing it for like an hour, and he like kneels down for and says a little prayer before he gets up, and he says, it is finished.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I've been kind of muttering under my breath as I write a highly exaggerated version of what's going on. Basically, I'm kind of viewing this as an anecdote for how, like, this pumpkin is a mighty beast and a fine adversary, and one that must be honored by defeating it with a careful balance of, precise extraction of its essence and, the raw power of like a raging inferno to heat the tea. And yeah, I'm writing all this down, but I'm like kind of muttering it under my breath as I'm writing, to the point that anyone who was listening could probably capture the general sentiment of what I'm writing.
Awesome. So you've made some freaking epic tea that will go down in legend, and of course the legend has been recorded, which is quite pleasing. It's always good to have a bard on hand. You feel much better that way, because now you know that your great deed has been recorded. And in the event that you should fall in battle against a tea leaf somehow, choke on it or something, you know that this story will be retold, and future generations will call upon the spirits of your greatness to inspire them to make amazing teas.
All right. So as somebody who likes tea, I feel I probably know enough about to know I just watched a pretty fucking good TV made, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes, and so after I finish, I asked for three. I'll pull out three cups from my bag, not pour them. I'll give the first one to the man who bestowed me the ability to make this tea, which is the pumpkin man. And the second one is to the owner, for they have given me this facility to make this wonderful tea, and also one to the bard who I noticed writing down the story of this tea.
All right, let's drink some tea.
Sorry, just making sure the kitten is not being bad.
She is.
You could just assume that, right?
Yes.
Mine's sleeping, and I'm assuming that someone is dead in the other room.
By the way, what's the quality on your tea kettle? Or is that like a signature item you have?
Yeah, I haven't actually put a number. I haven't actually put a quality on it.
Okay, so you guys are in Faythen'oc. No one makes low quality gear here. Quality 6, which we normally consider to be like, this is the epic shit, yeah, that's the practice stuff. That's the stuff that people threw out because it wasn't good enough. If you have something that is it's like legendary status per your character, it's at least quality 8 base.
Bullshit,
That is
right?
not going to be the case when and if you guys leave Faythen'oc, but here in this territory, there's no such thing as like mass-produced low-quality goods. Everything is handmade, artisan perfection.
All right, so when we have the time, I would like to inscribe your tea kettle. I think it requires inscription if you'd have one.
I'd be honored. Just so I haven't got to roll real dice in a long time. What would this be? This would be like artisan. No, not artisan. What am I? This is crafting, I guess, and empathy.
By the way, if I use Adorn on a Q8 tea kettle, I think it pretty much breaks the whole concept of rolling stuff with it. It basically means you automatically get 8 successes every time you use it.
Well, if you are using it as a gift, right? Wait, what's Adorn? Let me look it up.
Yeah, Adorn lets you pay double the cost of Beautify, and it makes it so that all quality is added as successes.
Oh, okay. Right. So
I mean, it would be a pretty massive undertaking because it's basically I basically have to pay what 16 artistry somehow.
well, all right. So
It would be over.
what Beautify does is you pay an artistry and it makes the item valuable, meaning that the successes are or the pips apply as dice when you're using it for trade, to trade for something else. It only applies to that in terms of trade. What Adorn lets you do is it lets you take other items that are of value and stick them onto it. You're adorning it with other things to add their value to the value of the finished product.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't really care about that.
If you were making something of value for trade, now, I mean, the more beautiful you make it, the more supernatural ability it's going to have. So that is of great
Okay,
use.
so okay, then I do care. That's basically what I'm attempting to do. Is I want to make things that are more appealing and inspire inspire people to believe in them.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, making things valuable or precious will, yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. All right, then I will definitely keep those down because that's what I was going for. So especially when it's like the written word, it's like, yeah, how do you do? I was like, I think that just means I write better. um, I write in a more appealing way. I don't know.
Indeed. Yeah, because I also want to make sure I know exactly what my role is for whenever when I do more tea stuff.
The stuff he's doing is not going to affect your tea directly. It will affect his ability to cause supernatural effects to occur when you're using your tea stuff.
Okay. Well, I mean, no, prior to his stuff, I'm just because it's crafting and empathy, I think, for tea.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then I'd use my tea kettle, which would give me 8 pips, right?
Correct.
And what do you use potential for? Like, do you just add it to a roll, or is it by itself?
You can use potential to pay for any talent. I'm sorry. Well, any talent when you have advantage.
Okay, and for the quality ingredients, I'm guessing these are the pumpkin would be a super high ingredient, right?
Oh yeah, pumpkin is This is a legendary quality 10 pumpkin.
Okay.
This is the armor crafter's equivalent of having access to dragon scales in Mithril. Never before has such a mighty and delicious pumpkin been seen.
Trying to think of like what kind of feelings and stuff do you think, like what kind of properties do you think a pumpkin would have? Because I'm thinking of since I have such a good area to cook, like to I have my area I'm in is pretty amazing. I'm using amazing ingredients. The set I'm using is pretty epic. I was going to use tikami to make like an epic tea that has a natural properties to it.
Just a quick reminder for everybody, if you are using the Fluid Wiki, Ed does have a full write-up of potential and what it does and what you can use it for.
Cool, I'll definitely have to read that because I'm not really familiar with it.
For those of you who have it, it's kind of your magic source, but for those of you who are not using psychic powers and magic, it still is useful for paying costs. Like I said, it's going to become prohibitively expensive to build up compared to building up your other things. But if you want to specialize, that's a way to do it.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing it in the wiki right now.
If you go to Fluid Droplets and click on Character.
I might have the wrong link. Because I'm not seeing
echelon.github.io/fluid. I'll just read it real quick.
Oh, yeah. Okay, no. Okay, I see it now. All right.
Yeah, so the stamina, which is what is derived from potential, unlike endurance, which benefits from several talents that can bring the exchange rate down, stamina only benefits from one thing, and that's advantage. A character with advantage may pay any cost at a rate of 3 stamina per 1 cost. A character without advantage may pay any cost at a rate of 5 stamina per 1 cost, and a character with disadvantage may not use stamina to cover any cost. For any specific supernatural action, you may purchase a talent, which lets you perform that supernatural action at a 1 stamina per 1 cost ratio. And that's how liturgic magic works. So in the end, it becomes identical to the old system for liturgic magic, just from that alone. Also, you can use potential just as another pool of stamina if you don't have any magic going on. But it is important to know that for those of you who are using magic, your potential is what you roll for your spells. So you probably don't want to tax that out until your stamina is done. And maybe also your endurance.
So yeah, so to quickly get this, the pumpkin would give me pips or success. I meant dice.
Pumpkin is going to give you pips.
Okay, so 10 pips plus my gift of I think 16. Yes, because I currently have 6 dice. Yeah.
Okay. And you have about 18 pips, I think?
I think so. 8 from my thing, 6 or 10 from my thing. Yeah, and
10 from the pumpkin, 8 from your cauldron.
Yes. And then and I have an amazing workplace, which
Oh right, and you need me to roll the dice. Is it 6?
Yeah.
Is it even possible for you to get less than 6 successes with that many pips?
Let's see, divided that by 6 is potentially to have 3 points on each. So if I roll like a 1 or if I roll all 1s, I guess, or 2s.
Do you have any traits that you could argue are giving you advantage in this situation?
Hard worker?
Not really.
Okay. Well, I think I should be okay to potentially get.
Yeah, the lowest die was a 3, so you have 6 successes. An amazing pumpkin tea was had by all.
Yeah, I'm also I was also spending a point of what's it called for a grill master. Except we changed to team master, so it gives whoever the.
I'll let you go.
One second. I had it written down.
Are you using that to help everybody else recover points?
Yeah, to produce those. Yeah, can restore neurotox is equal to my survival skill, which is 4.
So everyone at the bar is greatly refreshed by this surprisingly caffeinated pumpkin tea. Well done, sir. Miles, if you have taxed anything, I think he's just giving you an opportunity to do some untaxing.
I haven't taxed anything yet, so yeah, no, I don't think so.
Troy, have you settled in on the character you want to be playing?
Yeah, I have I posted the bard in the chat.
This is Draven.
Yeah.
No, stop typing pyramids.
Do it. Your kitty is so tiny.
Okay, Draven, let's figure out where you are. I am imagining you are, I mean, obviously you're somewhere in the Faythen'oc capital. I imagine you might be getting orders to go and track. Yeah. So the Council of 8 will have summoned you. You've been summoned by them before. You're actually pretty familiar with them. They're about the only people that dare give you orders. You also know a secret. Most people assume that you are a member of the 8th house, the one that never shows up. And this is not the case. You know that the dark secret is that 8th house was wiped out completely. but they did so as sort of a self-sacrifice and are the reason that the other 7 houses are still alive. And so the reason that they keep that 8th seat at the table empty is to honor the sacrifice of that 8th house. This is something you know, but very few people outside of the houses really have any idea. Do you want to be a member of one of the 8 houses?
Well, I assume I can't be a member of the actual 8th.
You can't be a member of the actual 8th, although a lot of people are going to assume you are because you're so stealthy. But if you want to, you could be a member of one of the other 7, or you could be a member of a named house. It could even be your house, House of Draven.
What would be, like, what does it entail to have, like, a house as part of it? Like, to be part of a house?
Bureaucracy, basically. So the 7 houses, they represent 7 facets of a long, long dead mechanism for piloting a flying city. The old helmsmen who used to do navigation are now called the House of the 4 Towers. The old engineers that maintained the mechanisms that kept the city afloat are now called the House of the Granite Wings. And there's 5 other houses that represent other things. The house that operated the shield and cloaking mechanism that kept the city safe and who died in defense of the city by making it vanish. They were the House of the Shield and Cloak.
That was the 8th house?
That was the 8th house. And they died to a man keeping the other 7 houses hidden, operating the cloaking device that, allowed them all to escape.
Okay, so I think if it's assumed that I'm part of the 8th house, I probably shouldn't be part of a separate house, and I just let everyone believe the rumor.
Okay.
Because it doesn't hurt me any. So if anybody addresses that I am part of the 8th house, then I just...
And if you don't admit to it, then they won't believe you. Because that's what the 8th house members would do, right?
Exactly. I claim no house.
Okay.
Not even the 8th, and I'll say that every time I say it.
Well, so the council is sort of called you up. This is Agent Draven. Thank you for coming. You are well past the threshold and have been for quite some time. But this may yet be the mission that sends you into the abyss. We hope that you are prepared.
I always am.
There is another bard by the name of Heldren. He is about to undergo a mission into an incredibly dangerous place. We need to make sure that he survives to reach the shield and to rewrite its history. Once the shield's history is rewritten, the priority changes, and getting the shield successfully to its destination in the West takes priority. But until the shield is acquired, his life is of paramount importance.
Is he aware of this?
He is. He is not aware of the full danger yet. We will discuss that in a briefing. Nor is he aware yet of the urgency of the recently discovered threat. Now, when these guys say recently discovered, they might mean something that happened 200 or 300 years ago. Their intel network is really, really big, and they think in terms of really long periods of time. These guys are good at forward planning. So, yeah. To them, a couple hundred years is kind of recent history. These guys keep records going back over 10,000 years. This is actually one of the few societies that has pre-cataclysm record keeping.
Is he aware of is the bard aware of the work that needs to be done after his job is done? Or does
Not
he
fully,
only
no.
to do?
He has some semblance of it. He needs to in order to do the job.
What information do we have on the threat?
They kind of look back and forth, and one of them sort of just shrugs and turns to this. It's Aphthis. If you're not up to date on them, we'll give you access to the library. They were one of the 3 nations that fought in the war that brought down our entire civilization and reduced us from hundreds of great houses to only 7. They were one of the threats that the 8th house sacrificed themselves to protect us from. And we had fought them destroyed as a result of that war. And they have risen again.
Understood.
We are no longer a nation of thousands of great houses. We are a nation of 7. We cannot face Aphthis in open battle. We cannot raise the city to fly again. This is beyond our options. But this new weapon may be able to deliver a significant punch if we can get its targeting mechanism in place in Aphthis. So for that, we need him to find the shield, encode the targeting into the shield, and then that shield needs to be delivered to Gunther, Wulthar, and Harving, who are currently on their way to Aphthis. It is
Sounds
imperative
easy.
the shield arrive before they do.
Doesn't sound bad. Sounds very doable.
That's our hope. The oracles concur. You've heard them sort of refer to the oracles. They're, as far as you can tell, heroes that they keep locked up who are just really good at seeing potential threats. They don't let those guys out much.
Well, if you're assigning me to the task, you're ensuring that it's somewhat more toward progress.
As always, the oracles are unfortunately vague on success ratios, but they're very specific about threats. Something about the future being in motion perpetually.
Nonsense.
In any case, the shield once belonged to Gunther's mother, and so it will have an immediate belief effect upon him contacting it, which should activate the targeting system and allow the weapon to strike at Aphthis.
He will know this relic?
He will.
He will recognize it?
It was wielded by his mother before she fell in battle. Unfortunately, she did not have it on her when she fell. She fell in battle attempting to flank the army that came to murder his family, and yeah, her shield was not on her. It is still somewhere in the Empire to the north. Since he took all of his other family's artifacts with him, this is the only artifact we can find that will successfully trigger the reaction. Maybe it is fortunate that she left it behind, otherwise we'd have nothing to grab and we'd have to try and find something else, some other way of targeting. But this should do.
And there are currently no other objects? No backups?
Unfortunately, to create a similar result from Wulthar, we would have to invent something whole cloth from a mythology that we do not have the records of. He acquired his mythology from a supernatural source that is currently closed to us. They kind of shrug. Gunther, on the other hand, acquired his mythology from physical people, and so we find the shield, we inscribe it, and whatever happens to Gunther happens. Unfortunate, but it will deliver the weapon. The payload will arrive.
Understood. If that's our option, that's what we will do.
We just can't risk Aphthis rising as a threat. Right, so he basically tells you where to go find this guy, and they send you on your way. So you'll be coming back for a briefing with him. Just pretend to be as surprised as he is. But as far as he's concerned, you're the muscle in case things get nasty up there.
Not sure I count as muscle, but
Well, so
I'm not
far
sure I'd be considered muscle.
So far, his other companion is a hero who brews teas. I think you qualify as muscle.
And hey, Haljan himself has 3 melee. You can throw down. He's not good. If he's on the front lines, he's going down pretty fast. But he fancies himself able to throw down and scrap. He carries a mace around. Like he's not.
Oh man!
And yet he still punches people, even though.
You make fun of me, but you should see my list of casualties.
He's been known to use hammer and chisel in a combative fashion before.
I had something, just I lost it.
We call him the lobotomizer.
If this is all you're sending me with, I see you expect me to do the work.
This is not some dragon that can be beaten with a club. The Empire is a complex, integrated system of feuding lords ruled over by an emperor of some power. So it will need the precision of, the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. Pieces will need to be cut out, and yeah. Just sending in a guy with a big axe is not going to do it.
I've never been one for axes. I just pull out one of my daggers and twirl it around.
That's why you're going.
And I'll take that as my leave and head out to where I'm supposed to go.
Cool. You find them at a bar. They're enjoying a drink of what is now being talked about with the town as the greatest tea ever brewed. As a bard, it sometimes gets a little bit boring that everything you encounter is the greatest whatever it is that ever has been. That's kind of a running theme, but you put up with it because it keeps the spirits up. As long as the spirits are up, you can stealth at a whim. You do not need to introduce yourself to these people because no one needs to know that you're there. So this is entirely up to you how you want to proceed.
I have a description on the person I'm looking for, right?
Yes.
And so I see him just sitting at a table, or?
Yeah, they showed you a picture of what he looks like in their minds. So you have a psychic imprint of what he looks like. It's kind of like a borrowed memory.
Okay. And when was I told they were supposed to be returning for an audience, or that he's supposed to be going for an audience?
Once he has assembled his team, he's going to return. Basically, the end of the day. It's maybe it's getting on to late afternoon, but the sun is not yet set.
I take it that team includes Jackie and Kristen, right?
Yes, it will be the remainder of your team at that point in time. And we're sort of winding down to the end of the session now, but we'll get any other details you guys want to get taken care of, cleared up with your characters or history.
No, I feel pretty good. I'm actually, I think I've pretty much finished my character sheet. I feel like I'm pretty firmly in hand. I'm excited to play as him.
Yeah. As the sun does begin to set, the two of you that have psychic abilities get the sort of special sight of what the sky looks like in Faythen'oc. To those who can see, it's a network of crisscrossing lines of every color in the rainbow. Each color representing a different mood, emotion, or sort of idea that's being projected from point to point on the giant network of art that gathers belief and spreads it to where it needs to go. It's really comforting for you guys to be in this thick a web of belief energy, especially knowing that you're heading to a place that doesn't have any at all. Fortunately, you're bringing a little bit with you in the form of a guy who makes tea.
Depending on what Jack and Kristen make, we may need NPCs.
We will see. I don't want to speak for them, but we'll see what kind of epic creatures they create.
I'm perfectly happy with having an expendable apprentice.
I always have to make sure I get some quality great ingredients before we leave.
I see what you did there. You can take a scoop of that pumpkin with you, although they're turning the rest of it into other things, pies and such.
Of course, of course.
All right then. If there's no further business, we can go ahead and close out. Not a lot happened, but you guys can still comment if you wish. Reward a couple experience points.
Cool. So for Tice, how you described the tea making process, that is pretty vivid, especially if somebody started off by saying, "I have no idea how tea is actually made." Like you bullshitted your way through it pretty well, in a pretty descriptive way. Something that was it was cool. Maybe it was vivid. It was easy to follow along with. Really kind of broad at the moment. So I thought that was cool. And for Troy, I just really like your character idea. I think it's interesting that we had a very contrasting approach to accepting our tasks, and that you accepted yours right away. I think that kind of established that you're not necessarily cocky, but you're very self-assured. That became clear very quickly that you're assigned a task and you already know you're going to succeed. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I thought you kind of established that in 5 words. So
yeah. I like to give one to Kai for basically it's just making double sure that he's not just working with a bunch of idiots, because he's like, am I gonna have to do all the work here? Is this how it's gonna roll? And I want to give one to my little for deep digging into finding out what the missing word was. I've been just doing nothing, but it's like I just look at him, looking at him, go like, I know what you mean, because I know there's some bigger picture here, but I'm not going to say anything right now until you actually tell me the actual mission.
Sorry, I was typing. Yeah, Heldrin for telling children that killing is okay. That was fantastic. Actually, all of your interaction with children so far were great. Are we gonna call you Ikoma or Masashi? What's the way?
Masashi. Masashi. Akoma is my last name. You can also call me Akoma if you want to.
Heck, my character might just go by last names. We'll see what happens there. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, you get it right away for showing off a heroic feat with, and also deciding to turn pumpkin into tea, which doesn't sound like necessarily a tea thing. So, I mean, I guess it can be, and you did make it, so it is a thing.
I'm imagining some kind of pumpkin version of a pumpkin spice latte, like done in tea form.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably good, and if it was made by you, then it's delicious. But I did like the added flair of caffeinating it, like that idea, like tea should be caffeinated and blah blah blah, and the just already showing off that you can make something like especially powerful. That'll be very useful later.
Yeah, my secret powers of Tikami.
That went pretty quick, but there are only 3. I think, did all 3 of you get a chance? Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, you should get 2 experience. I do, as a special commendation, want to call out Miles for following the hero's journey script in your meeting. That was like your initial refusal, which is part of the script. That was really well done. So, thank you for that. And thank you everyone for. Yeah, I think we have a really cool adventure getting ramped up. We'll do a session 0.5, maybe session 1 next time. I think it won't take too long to get 2 more characters built up. So yeah, I think we'll probably do session 1 next time and start getting the foundations laid for approaching the threshold of the story.
Yeah, we can really get a story really a brewing.
Hey, okay, so that was the end of the video. All right. Thank you everybody for watching. Yeah, we're gonna keep doing our role plays on Thursday nights. We don't stream live during the role plays, but we're gonna record them like we did here, and then the following Tuesdays, I will be playing the recording and commenting in the chat for anyone who wants to watch. Hopefully, I'll have a better job of editing when we come around to that. So that was the framing on the video early on was a little off and stuff, but yeah. So thank you all for watching, and I'm gonna do this again next week. I am gonna stick around.